There's 3 elements you must master in photography. All the pros use these 3 settings to help their photography stand out. Mastering exposure doesn't have to be hard, it just needs to be controlled. Using shutter speed, f-stop or aperture, and ISO takes you from taking photos to making photos. Let's go for a walk and talk about it. Let's start with shutter speed. In my opinion, shutter speed is the most important piece in the puzzle, which is the 3 settings for photography. So in photography, exposure time is so important. Typically, we're trying to get a fast exposure time or a shutter speed, or a slow exposure time or a slow shutter speed. So reasons for that would be, for instance, a fly casting shot where I'm trying to freeze the action. I need a very fast shutter speed. That way it will just freeze the action, show no movement, and everything will look very, very sharp and crisp, no matter how fast it's moving. On the other side of that, in landscape photography, the exposure time or the shutter speed doesn't matter so much. And having a slow exposure or a slow shutter speed is actually quite beneficial to show movement. If it's clouds or maybe waterfalls or rivers, things like that, the movement actually creates a lot of depth, and it also creates a lot of, it really creates a great, beautiful shot. Okay, so we talked about shutter speed. Now let's talk about aperture or f-stop. Usually I'll just choose the one that best suits what I'm shooting. I typically just shoot wide open, f1.8 or f2.8, or I stop down if I'm shooting landscape photography to f11, f16. Basically, I'm trying to either isolate a focus point by shooting wide open and increase my shutter speeds, or I'm stopping down, which reduces my shutter speeds for slow exposures, and I want ultimate depth of field, focus from my feet to infinity. So this is the 3rd setting to master, and it's ISO. So what does ISO on a camera stand for? ISO is the International Organization for Standardization, an organization that sets international standards for all different kinds of measurements. But when it references your camera, the ISO is the camera's sensitivity to light. So for me, what I try to do with ISO, I try to keep the ISO as low as possible all the time. The only time I change the ISO is when I'm shooting in low light and I'm hand holding the camera and I can't get a shutter speed that allows for that. And or when I'm shooting at night, trying to get stars, I need a very high ISO so I can keep my shutter speeds faster. Usually I'll shoot like at 20 seconds or 15 seconds and I need a high ISO to do that. Otherwise, I'm trying to keep the ISO low. It gives you the cleanest image. So I hope that you learned a little bit about the 3 settings that you must master to take control of your camera and shoot in manual modes. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.